second half of our forum is dedicated to those 5 candidates running for the position of Mayor of Grand Forks. This is for a 4-year term. We are going to follow the same rules that the Area 2 candidates followed. So that we have had a draw for speaking order. And the speaking order for this portion of our forum starts with Donna Semenoff, followed by Taylo, then Peter Demski, Konrad, and Cher Wyers is the last speaker with opening statements. At the end of the question period, we reverse the order for the 2-minute closing statement. Again, each candidate will be able to use 3 rebuttals to jump in for questions that are directed at other candidates from members of the audience, and will be a little more lenient with the questions from the media in terms of how Mr. Olson chooses to direct them. Again, there's a 2-minute warning, 90-second warning, so 30 seconds left with a yellow folder and a little xylophone if you don't see it. And the red then is your 2 minutes are up, and I'm inviting the audience to clap to make sure that the candidate knows it's game over. So, we have a great turnout today, and I am going to ask Donna Semenoff to start off with her opening comments. Donna, and I invite all the candidates to come to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to see you here tonight. We are here because we care about Grand Forks. If you care about Grand Forks, raise your hand. Yeah. I'm excited to share with you tonight. One can learn about my skills, qualifications, and experience at the Boundary Sentinel Online, Grand Forks Gazette, Shaw Cable, and GOAT FM. Thank you for all these media outlets for providing information on candidates to the electorate so that citizens could make well-educated decisions when voting. As you've probably noticed, I am passionate about protecting Grand Forks, its people, water, and land. I want to do everything I can to keep Grand Forks FAB fabulous. We've had a long-standing reputation for being friendly, affordable, and beautiful. We have the power to keep Grand Forks fabulous by working together. When you elect a mayor and council, it will be their responsibility to work on behalf of you. Here's how it could be. Have you ever heard of the elephant and the blind man's story? If you have, please raise your hand. There was a big elephant, and each blind man was holding the elephant in a different part. One was holding the tusk, one was holding the trunk, one was holding the leg. And they were arguing about what that elephant looks like. And the truth is, the elephant was the elephant, they just had their different perspectives. I believe that if we listen to each other, we will more likely understand that elephant better, even though it may seem like someone's describing something different. So I'm all about a team approach, working together to handle our challenges. We have a lot of talent in the community, and I'd like to see us work respectfully.
Thank you, Donna. Taylo, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Grand Forks is experiencing some modest economic success. I attribute some of that to the efforts of city staff, to an effective city council that made good decisions in terms of marketing the city. But in fact, the truth is, our time has come. The overflow from the Okanagan, the kind of interest in our community, has a lot to do with being an attractive place to live. Our business success has been recognized by our peers. We have a workforce at the city that's proud of the work they do. I think you can see that in the work that they're doing around the city. They've also taken a position that they are the caretakers, not the builders. So it's given us a whole new flexibility in working with our employees in terms of getting things done fast. You'll see that around the city. The problem is, though, that we've got to be careful that we don't become a really successful business and forget about the fact that we're a special kind of business. We're a city. So we need to clearly look at our social responsibilities. We need to be cautious that we're not picking up responsibilities and burdening our taxpayers here locally with those added responsibilities that should be the province for the feds. I want to tell you now that our city is a city with a heart, but we can be careful, we can make good things happen without taking responsibility away from those other levels of government. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Our third speaker is Demski.
Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Demski, and I've lived here all my life, and I love this town. It is a beautiful place to live, but we need more jobs. A large portion of our workforce is leaving because there simply is no work. Okay? GF needs to recover economically. It would also be mutually beneficial to partner with Christina Lake to raise our area's profile. I have a 3-point plan in mind to achieve this. First, we need to make this a retirement destination. And second, we need to attract tourism. Third, we need to expand our industrial base. If I'm elected, I will work with council to make this a reality. Also, we need to cooperate with Community Futures to make it easier to get small business loans, with an emphasis on filling the empty storefronts in this town. Another proposal I have is a youth center to keep the kids off the street and give them something to do. I believe everyone should be entitled. Oh, regarding the water meter issue, I believe everybody should be entitled to a certain amount of free water before having to pay. We need a strong leader, and I'm your man. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Our fourth speaker is Konrad.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Konrad, and I'm running for the position of Mayor of Grand Forks. I believe there are numerous issues that need to be addressed. Economic development, tax reform, and of course, our failing infrastructure, to list just a few, including growth in business, as well as other sectors such as education. For a city that stops growing, becomes stagnant, and eventually dies. Furthermore, there needs to be much more transparency at City Hall, so that the citizens of this city feel that they are a part of what's going on around them. My 35 successful years of business management, dealing with employees, and interaction with the public renders me to be the perfect candidate for the position of mayor. After all, running a city is no different than running a business. If managed properly, both will be successful. In closing, may I say that the democratic voice of decision-making must be put back into the hands of the citizens of Grand Forks. So for strong, honest, open-minded leadership, where we all can work together as a community, vote for me, Konrad, so that we can achieve the true vision and recognition that Grand Forks so rightfully deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And our last speaker with opening comments is Cher Wyers.
This evening. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow candidates. 17 years ago, my family moved here because we saw the potential, the beauty, and there's so many friendly faces. Now, I could stand here right now and talk about infrastructure, economic growth, environmental protection, but all of these issues, and much more, are being managed very effectively by by our competent city employees. We are looking good. There is something far greater that needs addressing. The Grand Forks that has emerged over the past 4 years is the biggest improvement I've witnessed. Yes, it is time with the guts to keep the momentum going forward. I'm speaking about the evolution of our city, who we are and where we are. Multi-utility infrastructure planning ready to go, an environmental protection vision that has been combined alliance of our major industry volunteering alongside special interest citizens and taking problems head on. First with the Boundary Air Quality Committee and later the Environment Committee. But air doesn't have any boundaries, and neither do the two rivers running through our valley. We are seeing solar applications evolving, and it's only the beginning. All of us here today are responsible for the future of Grand Forks. This brings me to a recent telephone call I had from an Area D director who extended her wishes for my being their next mayor in Area D. It is this valley, the valley we call home. So the next 4 years will be determined by you. Strategic planning and budgeting begins in January, and you will be asked to participate. Be prepared with your questions. We've had opportunities in the past.
Okay. Media questions are up. Just a reminder, you have candidates 2 minutes to answer any questions that you pose.
Mr. Lindsay? Anyway, that's fine.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Gotcha.
That's all right. Mr. Taylor, I wanted to ask you about the infrastructure of the city and how in the last year, I believe, there's been one major paving project, and you talked about, or the council's talked about waiting for grants. I do believe a lot of other cities are also applying for those grants, so do you think it's prudent for the city to wait on fixing roads and sewers and such, whether you know these grants are coming or not?
The city asked the electorate to give permission to borrow $4.5 million to work on infrastructure. At the same time, there was economic difficulties both at the provincial level and the federal level, so Build Canada, the fund that we were trusting would be a contributor to the money that we were going to borrow from the community to begin these infrastructure projects, dried up. So for us to go ahead and do infrastructure, we have to be very cautious. Our paving and work that we did on 68th Street was about $450,000, something like that. And the kind of work that we did there was a calculated risk because we do want to reserve the money that we have asked to borrow until the province and the feds come forward with their share. And they are. There is a new fund coming forward for small communities, which we will be in line for, first in line. Thank you.
I think, I don't see why we're wasting money on building roads when we need jobs in this town, you know? It's kind of a no-brainer.
About grants, I remember attending the event at the Gallery 2, and there were special guests who were talking to us about employing foreigners and having business come, and they made it very clear that grants and government things are unpredictable. From going to the February 10th meeting, council meeting, I think it was, we were told that twice our city applied for water meter grants and didn't get it. And then we found out early this spring, the third time we applied for a specific water meter grant, we didn't get it. Our city decided to use our gas tax savings, which we've gotten over the years since 2006. That money could be used for solar and transportation. And I am very nervous about this approach of I would like us to see if we can try to figure out how we can do things by ourselves independently. Yes, we apply for the grants, but I'm nervous about spending over $1 million counting on a grant.
Mr. Lindsay, excellent question. And I want to inform the electorate out here that you're looking at $127 million of infrastructure in this city. Yes, $127 million. Right now, we're falling behind by $3.85 million a year. There's only one way we can do this, and that's what federal and senior levels of government are there for. They're there for our funding partners. It's not a handout. Believe me, we're all paying the taxes. We need to get some of that money back into our communities.
I believe we cannot wait anymore on the infrastructure issue. I have a report in front of me dated May 2009, where we had critical situations of infrastructure failing. How much longer are we going to wait on this issue? It is true there's a big budget involved in this, but we must start somewhere. Otherwise, what's going to happen to our city with that monster underground?
Next question.
This is directed for Cher. Would you like to see more business development, and how would you like to see, how do you envision the city growing economically?
Thank you, Craig, for that question. You know, when I moved here 17 years ago, I counted 13 empty storefronts in our downtown core. And, you know, today we are seeing a transition through retail, through online shopping. So our downtown core is evolving differently now. If you take a really good look at it, we have some very strategic businesses downtown. Now, we've developed through the council and working with staff, we do have a development showcase that has listed properties that the city has, vacant properties that we put up for sale and encouraging foreign investment. And we are working with, we are a member now of the UDI, which is the Urban Development Institute in Kelowna. And just last week, we sat down with 160 developers in the Okanagan area to discuss the opportunities that we have here in Grand Forks.
Anybody else want to pick up on that question? Any of the other candidates? No, you don't have to use Donna?
Okay, regarding economic development, I would like to see surveys and more communication with the citizens to find out if we've got some unmet needs for business opportunities. Businesses would be more likely to succeed if we are focusing on meeting the needs of the citizens. Also, in terms of encouraging economic development, we could take a leading role in thinking about environmentally friendly economic development. And one of the things we can do is, if we're going to have industry and create things, we make long-lasting things so that each time we create them, we don't pollute as much. They're meant to be lasting a long time.
Any other candidate want to weigh in on this one? Peter?
I think we need to hold community futures accountable for, you know, what the situation in this town. Their job is to basically revamp the town or get the town going. And I see just a bunch of people sitting there collecting their government checks, and they're not doing anything. It's very difficult to get a loan, you know, and basically a person should almost be able to go there and get a loan on a handshake, because people are getting scared away from the community futures because they keep getting refused, you know. And so basically it has to be made more accessible to the public. And that's all I can say about that.
Okay, one more, Mr. Lindsay.
Okay. I'd just like to ask everybody, if I can, and maybe start with Frank. It's been touched on a little bit, But what would you do to keep youth here? What do you think should be done in the community for jobs and stuff for youth to do?
If I may say, to start with, we should have a better system of extended education. Secondary school is not enough. Young generation goes all the way to Kelowna and other places. It breaks up families, and then eventually families leave too sometimes with kids. I feel we have the potential to have a college in Grand Forks, and we must pursue that avenue.
It is probably right we need to change the school curriculum to reflect the needs of the province's energy and growing economy like that. So we might need more electricians, we need to, and plumbers and stuff like that, tradespeople, and concentrate on maybe an education towards that end. And you know, science and all that stuff is good, but you know, we need stuff that's actually really beneficial to our province.
Well, the youth are our future, and there's no mystery here. We are a rural community, and to think that our Selkirk College locally would become a larger institution as it stands today, but it is our local learning center. And if we all look back in our own lives when we've gone off for trade school, for university, for post-secondary, but the idea is to bring those youth back. And I see people here every day. I look at a candidate here sitting at the table who is one of our youth who has returned to the community. So we have opportunities here. I can give you a list of jobs with civic info that match about 180 to 200 a week around this province, where you could get the training, and we could train our youth locally here with jobs in Grand Forks as well. Thank you.
I think one of the things we have to watch we don't try to do is to push against the norm, which is young people really want to get out and experience the world, so they are going to leave. I think apprenticeship programs are coming on strong. The province is funding them now, and that's a great opportunity for young people. Maybe we could have a farming apprentice role. Selkirk College, I think we can do a lot more in that area with catering to youth and allowing them to get some of their education, or all of it, right here in Grand Forks. Thank you.
Each one of us makes Grand Forks the way it is, the fabric of Grand Forks, the youth included. So they make a difference. I'd like to encourage them to consider what can make Grand Forks more wonderful. Think about it. It'd be neat to have a partnership with the educational system and the government interacting, and see what entrepreneurial ideas they could come up with, and us welcoming and supporting them. One thing that is dear to them probably is the environment. They could probably do some educational projects. One idea I had was that they could, anyways, I've got a variety of ideas. They could be ambassadors with the environment and also social skills.
Okay, we're going to now move to questions from the audience, so if anybody's interested, you can approach the mics. I'd like to mention to the candidates, now I'm counting those rebuttals. You only have 3. When we were doing the media, we had some flexibility, but now you can only weigh in on 3 questions, and I'm counting. Okay, lady on my left.
My name is Jane Frank, and I'm a resident of Grand Forks. Got my utility bill yesterday with this little note in it, and I have a question for Brian Kelly. You state residential water meters not only encourage conservation and allow for billing equity, but will defer the need to spend millions of dollars to upgrade the city's water infrastructure, such as pipes and reservoirs. How is a water meter in my house going to help the water main out front of me in a subdivision that's a little over 20 years old that has busted twice?
have time for this short answer. The fact is that the water meters are just part of a master scheme that we have, which includes education, it includes conservation, it includes a number of things. Measuring is the first step in terms of controlling our water, and that's the step that we're taking. We're controlling it, we'll measure it, and we will conserve. Thank you.
Frank?
I believe that there's other ways of doing it. Being in the industry myself, why were we not doing district metering, where we section off the city and establish exactly where our water is going, not necessarily being abused by the public. It's been done in Revelstoke with great success at a cost of $6,200, not $1.3 million.
Sure.
Well, I knew water meters would be out here this evening. And, you know, as I said, 17 years ago, there was water restrictions here in the summertime when I moved here. Those little water meters with the batteries in them are designed to slow the flow of water. That's what the intention is for them. That will reduce the wear and tear. It's no different than the engine in your car. If you're revving it down the highway at 150 miles an hour for 3 hours, it's no different. And what we have trouble with here in the summertime is maintaining the fire flow in the event there's a fire. And that's the reality.
Peter and then Donna.
I think it's everybody's inalienable right to have free water, because we need water and we need food to live. And just because you're poor should not be a reason to have your water cut off. You know, you don't have to go to your neighbor to get your water. You know? And so basically, but if you abuse it, of course, then those people should have to pay a little more. You know, so it's what you do with the water meters that matters. It's not whether you put them in. You know. So that's all it is.
Frank, you know, Frank, you've already used one.
I realize.
Okay, Donna, then Frank.
Our maximum day demand of using water has been going down over the years, so we're using less. And the Kettle River, when there's a problem, if it's a dry year, it's at the end of the summer. Choosing to go the route of water meters is a very expensive choice when there are less expensive choices out there. Also environmentally invasive. Every time you purchase things that you don't need to, you're contributing to pollution, including water pollution. There were better options to try first. I hope other areas will consider that for the future. About these particular water meters, they're put in with RF frequency. This is a recognized possible carcinogen. The residents are being cornered into putting them in their homes. And this is the first time in the history of Grand Forks that a possible carcinogen is trying to be put into every home. I have concerns about that. The people who don't want to take that risk are being forced to pay extra money. I think we need to consider these things, educate ourselves. There is no question about the possible carcinogen, and I hope that we can, the next council will consider a more socially friendly way to handle this situation environmentally and treat the people with respect, not corner them into this situation.
May I just briefly recap? On conservation can be achieved other means. By bylaw enforcement for bylaws that are in place and are not being enforced. We are paying bylaw officers to enforce these bylaws. If they're not going to be enforced, let's take them off the books.
My name is Roma Hamilton. Good evening, and thank you for the privilege of asking Mr. Frank Konrad a question. It is in connection with bylaws that I'm asking. We have had mentioned earlier this evening that there is now a new bylaw brought in by the outgoing council that with water infraction we are under the potential of paying $1,000 to $10,000 a day. My question to you, Mr. Konrad, if you become our mayor, do you consider such fines of $1,000 to $10,000 a day as excessive? And if you do, would you revisit the bylaw and find a more reasonable amount so that we in the retirement community wouldn't have to consider selling our home? Thank you.
I'm going to respond to your question quite simply. Once elected, I will not impose any fines because I do not believe taxpayers should be fined over an issue that they did not want in the first place. And once elected, once elected, with the help of proper counsel, I would put an immediate moratorium on the issue until we have further discussion with the citizens.
Okay, next question.
Christine Thompson, live in the city of Grand Forks. I'm a candidate for councillor. My question is directed to you, Frank Konrad. You indicated in one of your comments that the infrastructure and the report that you referred to from 2009 said that we should be going and doing these things and upgrading the infrastructure now. Inasmuch as the citizens gave us $4.3 million at the last election to help leverage other grants from senior levels of government, if you're not prepared to wait for those, and you're wanting to forge ahead, how do you propose to pay for $127 million of infrastructure upgrades required?
In response, for one, I would not have endeavored on the adventure of doing $1.3 million on a water meter project when we have a serious issue in the ground. The paving of 68th Street. Why was it done without the infrastructure being looked at underneath first? Or is it to a quoted comment, and I may quote this comment made by one of our elected officials? It is relatively cheaper to pave now, and we can wait for the underground infrastructure till later.
Anybody else want to make this question? Okay, Brian?
Just to clarify, there was a complete review of the infrastructure on the alignment of 68.
Okay, next question. Oh, sorry.
What I would propose is that we do it one step at a time as we can afford it. And we get creative about how to get the money. And maybe some of us advance a little bit of money to the city. Maybe there's other ways we can do it. Maybe we can do fundraisers. But I think to bank on grants is wishing on a hope and a prayer. We might get lucky, but I think we've got to face the facts. And we've got to figure out how we're going to pay for the things we need.
Laura Saville from the Boundary Peace Initiative. I'm going to change the tone a bit here from the water meters. It is a contentious issue, but I think we need to just think a little bit of something else beyond just our own little part of the valley too. Just a few days ago, the federal government proposed putting tanks and light armored vehicles in communities across the country to honor and glorify the war in Afghanistan. What is your position on this? What would you do if you were approached? Cher.
Thank you for your question, Laura, but I didn't quite understand what your question is about putting tanks
as memorials in communities to the Afghan war and to the glorifying the Canadian deployment in Afghanistan for 12 years.
Well, excuse me, but I haven't seen this. I have respectfully and sadly witnessed what happened to an unarmed soldier at the cenotaph in Ottawa. And realizing that there are world issues out there far beyond what we comprehend here in our safe little haven. But there comes a time when you do stand up for your country. And those people that choose to do that, I respect them so highly.
Okay, no follow-ups.
No, I just need time about people.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron?
Aaron Perkins, I do live in Area D, so I can't vote for any of you, but I do have a question that I think would be on some people's minds. I wish I could ask all of the candidates who have never served as councillors, but I know I have to pick one, so I'll pick Mr. Demski. So to Mr. Demski and all the other councillors, or all the other candidates who have not served as councillors before running for mayor, what makes you think you can do the job of mayor?
Well, I'm a leader. I'm a Leo, for one thing, which is kind of a born leader. So, and I run a trailer park. And if I can run a trailer park, I can run a town. It's that simple.
Next question.
I'd like to direct my question to Councillor Wyers. I am a politically active youth in the community. I'm serving my second year in the British Columbia Youth Parliament this year, serving as the Minister of the Interior. Councillor Wyers has successfully created the Head Start for Women program this year that's gone quite well, that I've learned quite a lot about from my friend Jacqueline Salter, who's been part of the program and had a conference with Councillor candidate Teresa Taylor as well attending. And I would like to ask Councillor Wyers what she plans to do to encourage more youth development in Grand Forks for politics.
Came up with our MLA Linda Larson when we were discussing the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Head Start pilot project that was here in Grand Forks. And it was a one-year pilot program funded by the Women's Institute of Canada through FCM, through our federal membership. From there, our young core of girls, 16 to 24, decided they came up with a project, and they designed a shelf-ready empowerment conference that we're going to be holding in 2015, early 2015. Also, their key focus is seeing a youth advisory council established in our community. A youth group of boys and girls, young women, young men, who can shadow our city council, shadow the workings around our city staff, and get involved, because that's what community is all about. Our community is about our governance, and about our neighbors, and about what it takes to run this city. So my plan is to introduce, through the strategic planning that starts in January, a youth advisory council for this community.
Any other candidate want to jump in on this one? Okay, gentleman on my left.
My name's Murray Rennie. I live in Grand Forks since '99. And I have a question for Mr. Taylor. My sister lives in Lumby, and when they put in the water meters there, their rates went up by 30 to 40%. I just wonder if the rates here will do the same thing, or are you only going to use the water meters to recover the actual cost instead of pad your budget?
We certainly are not going to pad our budget on water rates. We've established a citizens committee. I think there are 12 people on it now that will be monitoring and reviewing how those rates are set. So our plan is to run a mock billing period for at least a year so people can read their meters and see what their consumption is. And then looking at just cost recovery. That's what we're looking for. We're not planning to make any profit on it. We're planning to run an economical system, and that cost recovery is the bottom line.
Thank you, sir. Sorry there are no follow-up questions. Anybody else want to jump in on that one? Okay.
Hi, I'm Tanya Dattersby. I've operated a business here for about 3 years, but I've only lived here for a year. I'm quite happy to be here. In your opening statement, Brian, you had mentioned the need for us to remember that we're a city and that there's social concerns. And I want to address my question to Cher. I want to know what you think are our most pressing social concerns and how you would deal with those concerns should you be elected.
Thank you, Tammy, and welcome to Grand Forks as a newcomer for a year. Yes, we do have social problems. Everybody has social problems. And I'm very proud of the work that 3 of our organizations have already done. Habitat for Humanity, Whispers of Hope, and BEST, Boundary Emergency Transition Housing. I was going to say the acronym. Anyway, those organizations are going to need support. And I'm going to put a call out to you right now, here in this evening, for those who can come out and volunteer and assist those organizations in keeping that facility a Class 1, recognized province-wide partnership. Those 3 organizations came together as a result of coming before council, looking for grant and aids to pay their utility bills, to do operational expenses. So we are going to have to work on supporting that organization to assist those people in our community, and maybe somebody who's transitioning through our community who need the help.
Peter?
The Beths and those things are all very fine, but it's only a temporary solution to the homeless problem. The fact of the matter is people are not going to want to live in a shelter. People want to have something to somewhat call their own, and I think that we need to look at alternatives to the homeless problem. Like, for example, what I've done is, have a trailer park in the bush because, these people, they don't mind staying in there for a short period of time, but they need something more permanent, and you got to offer an alternative. And so we need to look at alternative ways of solving the homeless problem.
Peter's right. There is a problem with people that are disenfranchised, and the solution is not an easy one. It involves a number of factors that play together in terms of mental health, substance use, plain old poverty, and physical health problems. I mean, those are all players in what ends up in putting people on the streets in our city. And so we need some unique approaches to that. That's not a simple solution at all.
Mayor Taylor. Over the last year, we've become aware of 2 separate projects that have been brought forward to council. One of them is the Trails Society. They brought forth proposed budget for projects. 1.1 million was designed for more paving of Trans-Canada Trail outside of city boundaries. The second project is the Phoenix Ski Hill. They were granted 32 extra hectares by the province. Last year, they came to the city and to the regional district seeking funding just for their ordinary operating expenses. If these projects go ahead, are the citizens going to be allowed to have a say through referendum on whether or not their taxes are increased to pay for them? And how can you justify spending our tax money on recreational projects outside of the city when our infrastructure is neglected?
Thank you, Sylvia. In terms of the ski hill has been placed on the list of healthy recreational activities that we will pay for as a region. So that has been brought into the same area of funding as the pool and the rec center and the arena. As far as the trails go, I see the trails as meeting an important need for all of us in this community of accessibility. And if we can participate in that, great. The city will not bear the major burden of this. This is shared by a number of funders. And so we'll play our share, but we're not going to take the whole cost of it.
The application for the trails, the paving of the trails that we extended outside of our boundaries somewhat, that's what I call a partnership. That's about us being neighbors. It's just a very small portion of 0.1 kilometers. But you got to stop and think, that is also infrastructure. Okay, so you can't drive your car on it, but it's bicycles, walking traffic, horseback. That is also considered infrastructure.
As much as I love these projects, as a resident and taxpayer, I'm concerned. We have infrastructure to take care of. The grants are not guaranteed. I think we need to evaluate where our financial priorities are. I would welcome public input because we're going to have to live with the consequences of those decisions.
Thank you, Donna. And that was your third rebuttal. Okay.
Thank you. It's for Brian. And I'm following something that's very interesting about this city. We have all the infrastructure we can have to do really well. Mainly electric, because we own our own power. And I'm really for having solar, and they'd be the best thing. But it's not only that. I have a little pet peeve. And my little pet peeve is, not this microphone, I worked 3 years ago on putting fiber optic in that whole town.
Oh, so you have to get to the question.
Yeah, the question is really fast. Okay, we have an infrastructure is going up to observation. The whole town and the tourist attraction will be with it. We can have Wi-Fi for the whole town for free. Now, did the city have the guts to be able to go for Shaw and tell us and said to them, well, too bad, okay, because we can have that for free. Or the city can make money out of it as well.
The fiber optics are in place in town here. We are taking advantage of them now in terms of voiceover and various other savings with big industry. They have the potential, as Jill is saying, to put Wi-Fi everywhere. I'm not sure that everybody in this crowd would agree with the RF radiation issues that are being
Okay, we have 6 folks at the microphones right now, and that'll be the last. 7 folks, that's it, okay? So 7 more questions, and then we're gonna bring that to an end. Okay, Jacques, you have the microphone.
My name is Dr. Kai. I'm a resident and a freeman of the city of Grand Forks. My question is to candidate Konrad. If you get elected, you will be dealing with a council of 6 people plus all the staff in the headquarters there. Now, I've listened to you speaking at the post office when you've had your little meetings there, and it appears to me that you're a very angry man. Do you think that you can curb that anger when you're dealing with the council?
The way the situation is occurring in Grand Forks right now, are you not angry or are you happy with your situation? Furthermore, the issues that I wish to establish in Grand Forks, it will be based on a solid council. I am not their boss. I am just working with council and with the city. That is my intention. I do not intend to be a form of a dictator.
I'm Nancy Mitchell. I am a resident of Grand Forks for about 8 years now. I'm pleased that the conversation has broadened a bit into some issues that are really important to me, which are more the social issues, housing, homelessness, poverty, mental health, addictions, and I realize there's a limited amount that a city government can do on these issues. But another thing I want to say is that
we need to get to the question.
What I want to know, and I'd like to ask Mr. Konrad this, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts would be on some of these issues and what sort of positive vision you have. I think you've done a good job of articulating your displeasure with what's gone so far, and I want to know both A, what sort of vision you might have in some of these areas, and B, how you would propose to pay for any of the programs or activities, whether they be infrastructure or otherwise.
Although it's a broad question, Frank, you still have 2 minutes.
Yes, I realize that. There wasn't actually a distinct question in that, but I'll try to answer it the best of my ability. As far as growth goes, which is, I believe, one of your questions, am I correct? No.
What's your positive vision for the social aspects of our community, and how would you pay for your program?
Simply by, first of all, encouraging industry and business to come to Grand Forks by giving them incentives, at which way there will be tax dollars generated, which will help the citizens of the city.
Come closer to the mic.
I've lived in Grand Forks for 8 years, a little over 8 years. And this past few months, we were encouraged to put in the water meters. I hate to even bring that subject up because it's quite annoying. Anyway, this gentleman that had told us about his mother that lived in Cowlitz, that was told that her meters, water was going to go up, the rates, I'm sorry. And Brian Taylor mentioned that there'll be a lockup bill that's coming to our house for a year or so. And if we want to know how much water we're using, we could read it. Well, you'd have to be a fly in my house to be able to read that meter the way it's connected into the little spot that it's in. So and the question is, why? Well, first of all, I don't like the meters. Secondly, I don't know why we would even have to read those meters to find out what water we're using. If the water meter was, if there was a water meter, I'm not exactly sure how I can put this, but why does it have to be that we have to read the meter to find out how much water we use?
Okay. Brian, you've got that question.
I see the water meters as a tool that helps you change your consumption level of water, And unfortunately, if you're not able to read it, I think there are some possibilities here that you could read it electronically, so that you could actually get it on your computer. I'm not sure if we've initiated anything close to that yet, but if you can't read it, it's not doing the job that we want it to do, which is to tell you what consumption you're using.
Okay, next.
And I have a question for all of the candidates.
I have to pick one.
Oh, okay. Frank, you want to attract big business to Grand Forks, and you said incentives is one thing. But how are you going to cover the fact that any large company coming to Grand Forks with young people, young couples who want to have children, after 100 years, they can no longer have their children in Grand Forks. They have to go over 2 mountain passes. How is that going to get a company eager to come into this city?
Obviously, it would have to be a twofold step. Our hospital system would have to be enlarged because right now we don't have the facilities for even wards for giving birth, for surgeries. We don't have the facilities here. The bigger picture is industry coming here and big business. That's not something that can happen from today till tomorrow, obviously. We all know that. When we speak of vision, it could be for 5, 10 years down the road. It will not be achieved overnight. Anyone that thinks it will, they're dreaming in Technicolor, and I'm not a dreamer.
I think the answer to this is that the community has not been asked for feedback very much. I think if you check back with Chris Thompson and the group she led a few years back, the ministry is now asking the communities, there's a deadline of December 31st, to submit concerns they have. Obstetrics is a very complex one, but there are other healthcare concerns, and I think it's a step forward that we as a community are being asked to participate in an input to interior health. Thanks.
Monique Van Newick, Grand Forks residents. This question is for Cher. You are one of 2 council members who voted to give big industries a tax break. As a taxpayer in this town, this is actually quite concerning to me, especially considering you just said that we are having a problem with our taxes. We don't have enough. How, as mayor, could you protect us citizens from going deeper in debt with taxes by cutting these industries who can afford to pay their taxes a break?
An excellent question. And I'll take you back a little bit. Industry in this community, we were reliant very heavily back when the crash happened in 2008 and back when we lost Camp Park. So at that time, when I first joined my first term as city councillor, we looked at balancing out, moving some of that industrial tax over to other levels of taxation in our residential and commercial. The commercial is already high, so it's residential. And if you look at our residential tax assessment rates, we look pretty darn good around this province. So yes, I voted against it because I wanted to continue with the plan to do a gradual increase and the transfer of the taxes to our residents. And that was my intent. Industries, you know, are just as fickle with profits. They look pretty big out there, but their bottom line has a limit as well. So that was my reasoning.
Grand Forks. This is a question for Cher. If you're elected, how will this community look different 4 years from now, and what will you have done to get us there?
Thank you so much, Christy. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a leader. And there's opportunities for us to partner with our Area D.
I think one of the biggest misunderstandings or that we don't know about is how we differ in governance from our regional district and municipal government. And that's a role that I have been working on at AKBLG, the Association of Kootenay Boundary Local Governments, that I have been the executive director representing our region since 2012. And it's a constant discussion at all our tables, because we have this difference that does separate us. That, you know, the regional district is there providing services, and yet we have a regional district surrounding our city, and everybody here uses the roads and infrastructure. So how is a community of taxation of under 4,000 people to maintain that or sustain it? So I see an opportunity for more collaboration, working together, and working with the provincial government to probably look at the governance levels that we both have. And maybe we can open up some of the communication lines there as well.
Hi, I'm Betty Ann Mackay, and I've lived in Grand Forks since 1980, and my question is for Mr. Konrad. You were talking about democracy. Well, next week we're having democracy. We're all going to vote. If you become mayor, are you planning to run the city by referendum? Thank you.
say first and foremost, I don't believe in referendums. The R word costs taxpayers money. That's one issue where I believe tax breaks should be given or tax cuts should be made. So if I'm going to initiate referendums on every issue that the citizens have, we're going to go broke. My position on this is, once elected and if elected, my doors will always be open to the public on their suggestions and ideas, and we will not need referendum because I believe we will not have controversial issues that we will need to fight over.
Anybody want to weigh in on the last question? Okay, so this concludes our question period. We're now entering the last phase of our all candidates forum, and that's closing remarks. The order of speakers is reversed from the opening remarks order, so I'll read off the list. We'll be starting off with Cher, going to Frank, Peter, Brian, and Donna will be winding up the evening. So, Cher, you're up. 2 minutes.
Well, Grand Forks is having an election. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out this evening, and it was a very interesting opportunity to hear your questions and your concerns. I highly respect the office of mayor, and I can provide the leadership needed to get the job done. Council sets the direction, the staff implements the decisions, and I want to be driving the bus. There's going to be hard choices to be made, but every decision will be built with trust. I do see you, and I do hear you, and I am a good listener. So I'm encouraging you to come out to the strategic and financial planning sessions with lots of questions. Take advantage of every open house to be part of the discussion and bring your visions. We're already making the physical changes. It's the emotional change that needs to take place, ladies and gentlemen. We're living in an online world, and there is no lack of information and tools to access. Remember to ask yourself, who are we and where are we? Finally, what will they think of us in the future? I want to see a new chapter in the history of Grand Forks. So to my fellow candidates, good luck in your campaign to serve your community. On November the 15th, I'm asking for your vote to be your next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Cher. Frank Konrad.
Recapping some of the issues that affect all of us, including myself. We need growth in business, I've mentioned, and other sectors. Our misspent tax dollars that are conveyed to us as being acceptable and in our best interests. Again, our failing infrastructure as of May 2009 was so critical, and yet not a shovel has broken ground to date, except for the broken water mains, which seem to be occurring quite frequently. I believe 68th Street was an incomplete project. Where are the bicycle lanes, gravel on the side? But yes, we did have a ribbon cutting ceremony. The referendum question on the deer call on our ballots, yet we didn't have a referendum on the water meter issue, even though we had over 800 signatures on a petition. The deer call, in my opinion, is just another diversionary tactic to throw everybody off the real issues affecting us. And now we have a medical marijuana dispensary. Hopefully this isn't the type of business we were looking for when we're saying Grand Forks is open for business. And hopefully we didn't win our business award for this kind of business. Obviously transparency is definitely mission, and attentiveness to the requests and needs of our citizens. Where were their listening ears when they were needed? I will represent you with a strong, honest, attentive, and open-minded leadership, and my door will always be open to the citizens. So vote for change, vote for me, so that we can all achieve the vision and recognition. Thank you for your support.
Okay, Mr. Peter Demski.
Hello, I'm just going to go say in closing that taxes alone are not going to get Grand Forks out of the hole it's in. Basically, we need to think outside the box, and we need to do something drastic to turn this town around. When my grandmother was alive, she liked to play at the casino, and that is just, I know it's a controversial issue, but it would bring tourists to the area, as well as people are gambling already. It would give them better odds, at least, you know. So, and then not only that, you know, there's other ideas to turn the town around. Like we could do a water slide outside of town. And I also see a lot of there's industrial area that could be developed. Like why is the finger joint mill sitting empty out at Christina Lake, you know? We got to go to companies like boots on the ground, and we need to talk to them, like former people that were interested in moving here, like Paxton Poll. I know they got a sour taste in their mouth after the last time they were here. But if we can reapproach people like that and get them here and set up jobs for the community, then the rest should follow kind of suit, you know. And that's basically all I got to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Brian Taylo.
When I've met with my fellow mayors and councillors around the province, I tell them about what we do here in Grand Forks with our committee of the whole meetings, where we meet at 9 in the morning till approximately noon, and we then meet again for the formal meeting at 7 at night. The questions I get from are why do you do that? And the answer is because we want to be transparent. Get ready for the boo. What offends me most about the transparency comments are that we're not listening. The risk is, if you don't agree with people, they point a finger and tell you you're not listening. I could repeat the arguments that I've heard from the anti-water meter group by rote memory. It's not that we're not listening, we just don't agree. So what I promise you in the next year is that we'll continue with the economic development initiatives. Those are just beginning to show, and I think that we're going to see some really spectacular things for this community in the coming years. We have a housing problem, we have seniors that are low income, we have a healthcare system that is being asked to respond to this growth in seniors population, and they need to be watched. So I'm thinking that there's all kinds of things here that are going to be important for us to work as a community in the coming 4 years, and I thank you very much. I've been really pleased to work for you for the last 4 years, and I ask for your support again. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And our closing speaker is Donna Semenoff.
Thank you for this opportunity for all of us to share here today. I've shared with you in the paper and today the things that are important to me that affect how I do things. I care about how people are treated in Grand Forks. That means how the government treats the people, as well as how people treat each other. I care about the economic situation, affordability, and I care about the environment. I have things to offer. I have a communications background. I believe we could do a much better job at listening and working together. In the process of running for this election, I've met interesting people who have creative ideas about how we can attract tourism, creative ideas about how we could work with solar. We have a rare East-West Valley, which has lots of sunshine. I believe we have lots of untapped talent, and we can work together to address many issues. I advocate a process where citizens are more involved in early stages and have an opportunity to provide input. And in the unfortunate situation that maybe things don't work out with this 4-year long term, I personally feel reassured as a resident if there is something that a large group of citizens are concerned about, but there's something they can do. For example, get a referendum via petition. Our neighbors out in Alberta, the Yukon and Northwest Territories have that option. Rossland has tried it in the 1990s. So I ask you to please consider that. Voting for me means a voice for you and excellent communication and caring for the community.
Thank you, candidates, and I, as the moderator, appreciate your cooperation. Thank you very much, and all the best to you in the upcoming election. Thank you to the Boundary Country Regional Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event, and thank you all for coming out. It's been a great turnout. Good night.